We are at the Oklahoman's video studio with expert art gallery owner Joy Reed Bell. She owns JRB Art at the Elms in the Paseo district. And I'm Helen Ford Wallace with Parties Extra. Our sponsor is Party Galaxy. Hi, Joy.
Hi.
You have some really fine paintings in your gallery right now.
We do. We're at the end, in fact they'll come down on Monday, of our Best of the West show that we have every year. We've had it 13 years in conjunction with our Best of the West brunch that we have. And so this year we have featured the work of Mike Larson, and on the screen behind me the contemporary realism work of James Wilson. And
that's
then
beautiful.
It is, and you should see it in life size. And then also we have Paul Moore's sculpture. You know, Paul Moore is the one that's doing the 40-something figured land run bronze, bigger than life. And we've got some, of course ours are smaller, but we've got some wonderful work of his up. And I wanted to mention that Mike Larson is one of our artists, and his work is up right now. It's a fabulous exhibit. But he has written this very poignant autobiography called Don't Never Be Afraid of Your Horses. And when he handed me this at first, I thought, oh dear, they've printed that wrong. and I was thinking, should I tell him or just smile and keep on going? And he looked at me and he said, you're thinking that that's an error. And he said, they wanted me not to use that, but he said, that's what my grandfather used to say.
And say it again.
Don't never be afraid of your horses.
Got it.
And so the example, one of the examples in the book was that Mike tells us that he lived with his grandfather when he was young. They didn't have much money. His grandfather was kind of a small man. But he had two huge horses. And that was how they made their living, was that he would either clear land for somebody or he would rent out his horses.
And what were their names?
And so the names of the horses were like Jules and then Old Son of a Bitch was the name of the other horse. And so every morning he would get up, the grandfather would, and he would harness the horses. And of course the first horse would stand there and be perfect. The other one started acting up, and his grandfather would just hit him in the throat and say, you know, be still, you old son of a bitch. And he said the horse would be good for about 6 hours. And he would turn to Mike, because Mike was a little boy, and he was just thinking, what's going to happen? And he would look at Mike, and he'd say, Mike, son, don't never be afraid of your horses. And Mike has taken that throughout his life. It helped him through polio. It helped him become the wonderful artist that he is today.
He's a wonderful man, too.
And he's a wonderful man, but it was that, what I thought was so wonderful in this book was his grandfather was trying to teach him. You know, he was saying, son, you know, don't let the world get to you. But the unique way he had of saying that, and I'm so glad that Mike captured it in this book.
Well, and his paintings in this book.
His paintings in this book are wonderful, and one of the first paintings is a mural that has just been revealed at the new Heritage Building on Robinson. And in fact, these sketches in the inside and back cover are sketches of that mural.
And that's the Payne family.
That's the Payne family mural. And so the Payne family mural is in here, but this is just also just such a, I mean, look at this.
He's just a
I think I placed this one about a year ago somewhere, but look at that.
That is beautiful. And the ones you have in your gallery
are just wonderful. So you know, we have so many reasons, the ballerinas at the Capitol and everything, to be thankful to Mike. But this book is a treasure. It's his whole life.
Oh, I'm just
so I wanted to bring that because I just thought it was special.
That's wonderful. Well, you've just had this big brunch.
Yes, we have. We have 2 a year.
And that was the most turnout, Joy,
maybe
you've ever had.
It's a blur to me. But everybody said there were a lot of people there.
Oh, there were a lot of people there, and it was beautiful.
And I appreciate everybody coming. It's something that we do twice a year. We do it New Year's Day, And
you
then
had
in
black-eyed
June,
peas.
and we had black-eyed. I think last year we had black-eyed pea dip,
Oh.
which I thought was the chef decided to do something different, and but it was pretty good.
Oh, the whole thing was great.
And so
all
we
your
do
brunches
that
are
we do that just to thank people for supporting us and everything, and we have a nice mix of the public and the artists that we represent all year. So
And you had some Pre to West
yes,
artists
we
come
did.
by.
We did. We always do.
So that's nice too.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so First Friday's coming up. Is it by invitation only, or can
No,
people just
First
drop
Friday.
in?
First Friday is First Friday on the Paseo. So we have about 16 galleries that will have new shows and refreshments and everything. And our show this month is The Art of the Nude.
The oldest art form.
And it is. If you remember back through history and through civilization, some of the first images we have are of the human form, and the images that we're painting always reflected the society norms. So in the ancient Greeks, they were honoring perfectionism and everything. So these bodies were well proportioned, and they were named, Aphrodite, Apollo. I mean, they were named after the gods that they worshipped. And the male nudes in particular, were always noble, had wonderful characteristics and everything. The women tended in all cultures to sometimes be depicted as more paternal and familial, that they were Mother
motherly,
Earth, and that generativity of having children and everything, they embodied that. And then as we evolved in the Gothic and in the Middle Ages, people discovered sin. Before that, the only sin was Adam and Eve, and people were kind of used to that. And so, and anyway, Eve was usually portrayed nude because she had sinned. And so, but in the Middle and Gothic ages, then you begin to see the women covered and the men covered. And sometimes it was in strategic places, and then sometimes it was full body. And then in the Renaissance, there was really a lot of some of the world's most famous nudes. Michelangelo's David, all of these things. And once again, they were hearkening back to the ancient Greeks. And they were taking that forward. And then the artists kind of evolved, and in the Impressionist period, in fact, Monet did a painting where it was a picnic, a group at a picnic, and the woman at the picnic was totally nude, and everybody else was dressed. So there have been millions of articles written trying to explain the psychological significance of that.
Yes.
But it was an interesting thing for him to do with what at that time was a new technique and everything of Impressionism, which was, really challenging the status quo. So I thought it would be fun if we had our artists, and we have about 25.
So you have 25?
Of our artists do what they would be their contemporary. So they would be doing a contemporary idea of what the nude is like. And they've been coming in, and they're just all different. I want to call attention to Jim Kiefer, who's going to have his own show in September, but this is his nude. And Jim is known for primitive landscapes.
And that's a landscape.
And so he has a nude that when you look at it, you see mountains.
That's what I saw.
And you see everything, and that is a real contemporary. I mean, you wouldn't see this in the Renaissance, this kind of thing. And that's
so they're all doing their interpretation.
Interpretation. I didn't give them, we have sculpture, paintings, drawings, installations. We have, Richard McCowan has done several installations. One of them is 8 feet tall with 4 nudes around it, and it has LED lights in it and everything.
And this one?
And then this is Jim Cobb. He's an artist in Norman, and you will see that's a more kind of traditional, the impasto of the paint, but it's more kind of impressionistic nude. But they are all so different. And so I've been watching the work as it comes in, and I'm delighted with the variety.
It's contemporary.
And it's a contemporary interpretation of what the nude is. And you know, we've enjoyed putting this together so much, we kind of thought maybe we might make an annual event out of it. But we'll see.
Oh, good. Well, okay, so what's coming up in August and September?
In August, we have Banaz. She's a woman from Iran that just does gorgeous, gorgeous work. And she's got some nudes in the show too. But we've got her, and then we've got a very abstract painter, Larry Hefner, who got his MFA in Norman years ago studying with Gene Bavinger. And that's a name that some of your listeners will remember.
Yes.
So he is doing some of the techniques that Jim did. And some of his color palette is reminiscent of Gene, but they're very contemporary. You can tell they're not of the same period.
So that's cool.
Yeah, and we thought having, because Banaz does abstracts, but she does figurative work and flowers too. Wonderful flowers. So I thought that would make a great combination. And then in September, we have Janet O'Neill. And she is usually and I think has been the top selling artist at the Oklahoma City Arts Festival for years. She's from Santa Fe.
So that'll be fun.
And she's doing paintings of archetypes, and this body of work is very abstract and everything, but it's about, it's psychologically based. And so it's very, very interesting work. And I've paired her with Jim Kiefer, who usually does these
Santa
primitive
Fe,
landscapes, and he travels. Everything he paints, he's seen. So he constantly is going that corridor from Oklahoma through Colorado and on to Santa Fe.
Does he take pictures, I wonder?
Yes, he takes a lot of pictures. And some of the things he sees, you just wouldn't believe it. He had a church one time, and it had this tree by this church. You know, it was a Santa Fe church, and there was this tree, and there was this red thing, but you couldn't. In a way, it looked kind of like a cloud, and I couldn't tell what it was. And the customers kept asking me because it's blue sky and everything, and this red by this tree, and they said. So finally, I thought, you know, I can't bluff my way through this. I need to call and ask him what it is. And I called him, and he said, that was a bra. He said, when we pulled up from front of the church, somebody had it hanging in the tree. And he said, he said, my wife told me not to put it in there, but he said, I thought it was perfect.
Oh, how funny.
And so so he says, you know, he stops, and because he's done this route so much, he's very attuned to anything that's new or different in the landscape, and he captures that instantly.
Isn't that
and he
something?
makes his own frames. You see how there are no nails.
Yes. Oh,
These
my.
are wooden pegs.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. That he's quite a craftsman, and he does
nice. Well, all of your artists, I mean, they all have great stories.
They do.
They do wonderful things, and the best part about it is you remember them.
Well, they're
you
all
are fabulous at.
Well,
you're a good storyteller.
But they're all, you know. I curate, just like you curate a show. I curate artists, so that I have artists at any given time that are interesting and showing, and that's how I select them. And since that's how I select them, that's how I remember it.
You do a good job of
because
remembering.
it's important.
Well, Paseos just had their annual art festival. How did it go?
It was the biggest one we've ever had.
Really?
It was. It was huge, and I think that was our 41st year to have it, and it was amazing. It was huge. We've got a lot of things going on down there. We're getting ready. The old first public swimming pool in Oklahoma, the Plunge. A coffee shop is getting ready to go in there. Holy Rollers.
Holy Rollers?
Holy Roller is the name because they have donuts.
Oh.
And so they started out in a food truck. So probably a lot of, and they've been at farmers market and every place. So part of that probably is that name, but probably a lot of people will have heard of them.
Sounds
And so
good.
it's Holy. When they first called me, I thought it was a church or something. I didn't know, and they explained. And I've got a couple coming in next to the gallery to teach art.
Oh, really?
And I brought
This person.
and I brought the woman's paintings. It's Sarah and Shane Scribner, and that's one of Sarah's paintings.
Look at the detail.
The detail, the pearls, the transparency of the garment. I mean, these are just outstanding. They met in art school in California. Their styles are so different.
This looks like a photograph.
It does. It's another example. That's one thing that is happening in our society now is contemporary realism, like the flowers behind you and like the photorealism of that painting. That's a trend in today's society.
It's awesome. That's just great.
And I think people will enjoy.
And they're going to teach.
They're going to teach. They're starting out, I think, Wednesday through Sunday, and then they're going to see how that goes because they want to have time to each do their own work.
So are they going to teach
Individually and classes.
Watercolor or
They'll
acrylics?
probably it'll probably be based initially in a figurative style, and I imagine they'll let the person decide what they want to work with, and they'll probably be helpful with both mediums. But a lot of people now have switched to acrylic.
Acrylic's easy.
Yeah, it dries quickly
And
and,
it washes
everything.
off.
It washes off, and there are no fumes
Right.
or anything. And then oil painting, I was always attracted to oil painting because it's so slow to dry, you can change it and keep changing it. But it does have a downside of it's a lot of commitment of time to set it up and then take it down
And clean your brushes.
and all that. And
I bet you're a
acrylic
good
is just
artist.
easier.
Do you paint? Joy?
Not anymore. I think I'm going to start again. But I took some
Good.
lessons a long time ago, and that's how I got into the gallery business. Is that my late husband John Belt gave me painting lessons in '99 to relax, and then I started a gallery. So he used to go around and tell people I gave Joy painting lessons to relax, and she started another business, and she still hadn't relaxed, and I don't know what else to do.
That's very good. Well, and you, okay, so you got your painters there, and also down in Paseo is the Shakespeare.
Shakespeare in the Park, and they have a Native American show coming in this month too, and I think it's also going to be nude. And then they have performances this summer, smaller one acts, and then they're performing Shakespeare down at the Myriad Gardens again.
So
There's just a lot going on.
I mean, their cars.
Their cars there all the time.
Yeah,
We
anytime
got
you
some
come down
great
there.
restaurants,
Great stores, great.
and so it's we're busy.
My new neighbor has that needlepoint.
Which she does, Sukasa. Sukasa. That is Ernesto and Lynn Sanchez and her mother,
Liz.
And Ernesto is the preparator at the Oklahoma City Art Museum. But so his art and his sculpture
So they're
is
very
in there.
artistic,
They're
all of them.
very he is very creative. And then they also have done needlepoint apparently for years, and so they have classes of it and sell supplies and things like that.
I can't. I'm
And
coming
they
down.
have a lot of fun.
I got my needlepoint out, so I'm
You
gonna.
did?
Yeah. And I bet they sell. Do they have canvases?
Yes, yes, they do, and then you can go once a week for a class. or
So there's
something.
everything down there, and the restaurants are good.
They are. They're good. Paseo Grill, Picasso's, Sauced, and we've got some more that are coming in. We've got another one coming in that I think it will be the Norman Restaurant. Scratch is coming in, and it's they're all different. They all offer different kinds of food, so you can get great variety there.
Just a good place.
It is.
Well, okay. Anything else about the one upcoming or the outgoing
Well,
art exhibit?
I really hope that people can make it down this weekend and see this Best of the West show.
And get a book.
And get a book, one of Mike's books. It's well worth reading, and it's much more personal than most art books. And then don't forget the Art of the Nude. That's going to be a great show. And so in your 4th of July and everything planning, don't forget Paseo.
Gosh. Well, okay. Well, Joy, we always enjoy your wonderful artwork and the images for our party's extra backgrounds. They're always outstanding. And we particularly like this one. This is a great one.
Yes, it is.
So thanks, Joy, for checking in with us and telling us
welcome.
about your upcoming exhibits. Viewers, be sure you go by JRB Art at the Elms and see all the wonderful paintings and sculpture.
That's right.
Thanks, Joy.
Uh-huh.